there. So, today we are talking about how I spend my day working at a startup in South Africa. But we're going to break this down by first talking about how startups, or rather just corporations in tech, are a little bit different in the United States, rather anywhere, than South Africa and like other more new to this countries. I suppose you new to this isn't the word, but yeah. Anyway, so in the United States, things are rather more well defined. Um, they have all these levels, and they have things. They have like level one, level two, level three. You know, when you join, you start off at like an intern and you're effectively the coffee girl, just running around being cute. Then you move up and you're something a bit more serious. I really hope you're not the coffee girl when you're an intern. When I've had interns, they weren't my coffee girls, but well, they were guys for starters, but they definitely were doing more than, you know, I don't know, fetching croissants. You know, they were working on the tasks that were reasonable and relevant to their what they were interning for. So, and then you become like an assistant, trainee, and then you become like a junior product manager or junior BI analyst, or whatever it is you're training to be. And then you can move up these levels. And I mean, if you work at Google, they've got these fantastically well laid out plans. So you know where you're going, like for your career if you join. Anywhere where you start on the ladder, you can kind of see the end in sight. Although, yeah, so that's there. And I'm sure it's the same if you join like a banking career. You can pretty much see your up and down ascent. So if you work in a more fluid space, let's say you decide to become or work in a startup, then you land up where I am. And who am I? Well, my name is Celestine, and I am a product manager, former BI analyst in South Africa. I I make videos on books, lifestyle, and technology. And yeah, they were about once a week with my super cute border collie today offering to keep herself as a, I don't know, emotional support animal for all of you. And yeah, so once a week, and that's pretty much, if you like it, you can subscribe. Cool, let's get back to it. So in South Africa, things are some places have really well ranked hierarchies and their product and other organizations are really robust and well staffed. And you can kind of see when you join, this is where I am, this is where I'm going. You know, you have a really clear path. Other places, um, you don't have that kind of hierarchy. Product is a relatively new thing in South Africa. It's not a very old career path. Not that it's very old in the United States either, but in South Africa it's very new, and it's a couple of years older. And we don't have the full levels of like group level product managers, growth product managers, things like that in our country as yet. We are still growing that. Some places will probably have it, like maybe an Ozo or like a Yoko would probably have that, but those are like very big startups in South Africa, just in case you didn't know. But we, like the startup I work for, much smaller. So there's the product managers, about four of us, and then the head of product, and the one product manager is like an assistant product manager or like a trainee. So three PMs, then one junior, and then one of the PMs is like a senior PM. So that's kind of where you are, but there's no like group level PM or like principal product manager if you're interested. It's not exactly the same as in the United States. So how does that translate? So in the United States, if you're working on something, you might be working on like you would be a product manager of like a feature set or something. So like you would work very specifically on the revenue team, and while you would have these like projects for a quarter, you might be working on like three or four things. You would be working on like very dedicated things to that specific vertical you're on, and they you would have to collaborate with quite a few other product managers probably in things that touch yours, because everything is like so closely connected and there are so many teams or squads that work on like one product. In South Africa it's a bit different. So I previously was a product owner on a CRM system where I had about one, two, three, four of those like giant, like I had the IT service desk management system, the wow, thank you, the customer service desk management system, the facilities management system, and what else did I have? Oh, I was starting to work on parts of the HR as well. So that's quite large thing. So it's not like a couple features, it's an entire like suite of portals and user interfaces. It is very hard to focus with you here. r- Under my domain. And now I have an entire learning management system under me. So it is not like these little things or little I shouldn't say little, it is not these focus niches, it's quite broad. So projects span a much greater sphere of influence here. So in a typical thing, I have like quarter, I have everything from technical projects, which is things like architecture, optimization of the back end, things like that, as well as data science or machine learning projects in my suite because of my analytics experience, customer centric projects as well, which is very much things like people would do things like usability testing, or you would have user interviews, just going there out there and making sure that things are working well for your clients, as well as creating or suggesting features directly linked to your user research, as well as the data and competitive industry insights. Then you have obviously to build stakeholder requirements and things that you deem important based on either things that the CEO partnerships or things like that have requested, or things that the customers have directly requested, or things that have been put on the backlog and are urgent. So that's kind of where your product project scopes are. Cool. So why do we work here? Well, why do we work in South Africa? Is it like better or worse? So a great reason to work in South Africa is not only are some of the industries, particularly like the tech startup industry, I don't want to say it's young, but it's definitely relatively new. It's like a couple decades. It's not like hundreds of years old. It's like, I would say some of the companies are only about like 5 to 10 years old. So they're relatively new, and they are quite open to new ideas, interesting takes, things like that. And there's a lot of room for these new ways of thinking because we have to take into account the multiplicity of cultures, the huge variety of ways of thinking, of socioeconomic levels within the country, and the ways of the fact that we are a mobile first nation, and how does that factor into our product design. So there's a lot of different things that come in, and it's quite interesting and challenging, but yeah, I think it's a great place to be. So, what does a typical day for me and the other product managers I work with look like? So, on a day to day basis, we have check ins with our developers and designers just to make sure that things are going well and that they don't need any more information, and to make sure that things are moving along swiftly enough in order to reach the project's completion on time. Then we also check in with each other to make sure that we understand what's going on in each other's verticals, and if they are touching each other, like what changes might have been made and how does that impact each other. So yeah, then I obviously have to review all the work that has been completed for me and give approval or feedback on how to get it closer to the desired goal. Then it's planning and research for new projects. Yeah, and then attempting to identify any solutions to potential blockers or things that aren't making sense. Um, and then there's a lot of prepping documentation for like release, training, or pitching decks. So whenever like this, I've got a new idea, or I've identified something, or a customer has come up with something and it's quite urgent, and I'm like, okay, I can see where it's going, or we're prepping for like the end of quarter wrapped, or we're getting ready for a new quarter and making like deciding what's going to go in. Lots of documentation, building those product requirement documents takes time. So yeah, and then finally, I do some competitive analysis to look into our competitors, see what's like gaps we may have, where we can improve, what's interesting, what's exciting in our industry. And then also just keeping up to date with general tech trends and like what things could we learn, what could we use, how can we improve ourselves. So yeah, that's typically what we do during a day. In terms of work situations, I work mostly from home because it's a personal preference. But I do go into the office about 1 to 2 days a week, normally just one, because it's like a 26-minute drive, which doesn't sound a lot, but in the mornings in Cape Town, you have to leave extremely early, or like I have to leave like at 5:45, and then get there at about like 6:15 to drop this one off, um, and then go to the office by about like 6:30, and then leave before 2:30, so we can be back in my side of like the world, which is the suburbs, before 3 o'clock. Just because of how serious the traffic is. Otherwise, I can only go in after 9. Once again, the traffic is terrible. But then if I go in after 9, the parking sucks. Yeah, so not that parking is ever really good out there. Yeah. Perks of being a director, you get parking spots. Nobody else does. Yeah, I had never understood why lawyers were so obsessed with becoming partner, if only for parking slots in like downtown LA and things. Now that I have to work in the city some days of the week, I completely sympathize. Like, fight for your parking spot, girl. Get it. It sucks. Personally, I would just prefer it if like the My City bus came all the way up to the northern suburbs in Cape Town. Then we wouldn't have to have like be driving down in the car. Hey, well, I don't think they'll allow dogs on there, but wishful thinking, wishful thinking. Anyway, yeah. So that's typically what we do in a day. Although some days have a bit more stress than others. Like when we recently had bugs that were really difficult to deal with, and those were performance related. But otherwise, they are typically uh, similar to this. And yeah, that's essentially what I do during the day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be seeing you later on in the week.